Disneyland has just announced that Mickey's Toon Town is going to be reimagined, bringing in a lot more experiences for families and those with younger children. And also, we have some updates of some positive news that might be coming to the parks based on what was said in the recent Disney investor meeting. We also have some negative news when it comes to the flood at It's a Small World, and also some other possible cuts. So let's talk all about it in today's update. Hey there, my name's Eric D, and on this channel my hope is always to make your next Disney adventure a little bit more magical with tips and tricks, food reviews, and news. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel, but we have a lot of news today, and it's pretty exciting stuff because the Disney Parks blog announced that Mickey's Toon Town will be transformed ahead of the 2023 opening of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway in Toon Town, and they're going to be adding a lot more green spaces, a lot more play areas for those with younger children, those with families, to enjoy that area. And this is great news because a lot of the area in Toon Town has kind of been dead for years, whether it's been shut down due to it was originally maybe a play place or a bounce house, and those things have not been used for years. And they're going to reimagine the layout a little bit. And for longtime Disney fans, you know that Toon Town originally didn't have a lot of trees because one of the concerns was you're in a cartoon world, why would there be realistic trees if you're looking at it from kind of a theming point of view? They added more trees as time went on, but it looks like they're going to be adding a lot more trees and a lot more green space, so there's going to be more shade, it's going to be more welcoming, it looks like. So let's go over what the Disney Parks blog said about all of this. An ambitious reimagining of Mickey's Toon Town in Disneyland Park will debut in early 2023, alongside the new attraction, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Building on the legacy of Mickey's Toon Town, Imagineers are working to create some all-new experiences so families and young children can have more opportunities to play together inside Disneyland Park. The beloved Mickey's Toon Town will transform into a vibrant symphony of sights, sounds, and sensations. Focusing on today's families with young children, Mickey's Toon Town will feature new play experiences as well as open grassy play spaces for everyone to unplug. The land will have landscaping for both spontaneous family play and parental relaxation. Josh D'Amaro said, "We are so excited to leverage Disney's powerful brand, develop new stories, and share even more magical experiences with our guests. The newly reimagined Mickey's Toon Town will be a welcoming place where families and young guests can connect and play together in fun new ways." Disney Parks blog continues, "Even with a greener and more spacious Mickey's Toon Town, the land will offer more play activities and attractions than ever before. From active play to tactile play, new experiences will let children play, slide, spin, splash, touch, and listen. One of the new areas coming to Mickey's Toon Town will be Centennial Park, the first space guests will see when they enter. This natural space will be anchored by two interactive play experiences. At the center of Centennial Park will be a fountain designed for play, which will also become a center icon for Mickey's Toon Town. At its base, water tables will invite guests to play with the water and have a sensory experience. At night, the fountains will be brought to life in a unique spectacle. A nearby dreaming tree will be inspired by the tree a young Walt Disney would daydream under in his hometown. Sculpted roots will provide an opportunity for children to play, crawl, and explore. An undulating topography will offer rolling hills and a place to sit and dream. In addition to reopening in 2023 with the new, family-friendly, and adventurous Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, Mickey's Toon Town will still be home to many beloved characters including Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Goofy, Donald, and more. Mickey's Toon Town will close in March of 2022 to begin creating these all-new experiences." Overall, I think this is a great announcement for families, for those with younger children. I think this is great news. And for all park guests, it's great news in the sense that underutilized areas of the park are going to be used better. And so that hopefully will spread out guests a little bit more and give more room to the rest of us as others move into areas that haven't been used to their full capacity yet. So that is great news. And if you look from Google Earth, I have a picture here from Google Earth, we can kind of see how things are going to play out with the concept art as far as what's going to be changing, how they're going to be pulling some of the area out and making that the green space, getting rid of the old Jolly Trolley tracks, which they haven't used for years and years, and kind of having a new roadway and pathways there. So you can see how that's all working out. So before we talk about the next topic, I would love to hear your thoughts on these updates and changes coming to Mickey's Toon Town. Are you excited for these? Do you think it's a positive thing? Not a fan of it? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Now let's talk about why It's a Small World holiday has not reopened yet for the holiday season. And that is because reports start to come out last week that there was a flood happening, and then the Orange County Register had an official article talking about it. Flooding that occurred during the process of refilling the flume on It's a Small World will delay the reopening of the classic boat ride. It's a Small World experienced some flooding that affected machinery used to operate the attraction during the early morning hours on Wednesday, November 10th, while Disneyland was closed to public, according to Disneyland officials. Of course, problems and accidents like this happen, but that is upsetting and frustrating to those people who were coming for the holiday season early on to see that, to have that attraction close. And I'm sure it's frustrating for Disneyland when they had the attraction all ready to go and we're just refilling the water. So thankfully this happened after hours and it sounds like it didn't affect any individuals or anything like that, but hopefully the attraction itself will be okay. There have been guests that have been posting pictures online and on Instagram that they can show there is cleanup things going on even in the loading area. So they are trying to pump out that water, and so hopefully we will have an update soon there. So that is kind of some of the negative news. But then also last week we had the recent investor meeting, and we have some positive and some negative news from that. So let's start out with the negative news first. And if you follow Disney Twitter or are really into the theme parks, you probably heard this last week because it isn't the greatest quote and that's why it's getting coverage. But the CFO of Disney was talking about how they are going to handle inflation currently. One of the callers asked the question of inflation is higher than we've seen it for years. A lot of companies are struggling with this. What is Disney going to do to handle this? So I'm going to play the first little intro that will give a little context of what she's talking about, of why she is talking about the inflation here, and then her solution to that.
I think you asked a question that's on the minds of every CFO and every senior management team of companies out there. Inflationary pressures are something we are all looking at and trying to assess and think about, how do we manage through it. Just last week, maybe it was, just last week, I was talking to our parks senior team about things we could do there. And there are lots of things that are worth talking about. We can adjust suppliers, we can substitute products, we can cut portion size, which is probably good for some people's waistlines. We can look at pricing where necessary, but we aren't going to go just straight across and increase prices. We're really going to try to get the algorithm right to cut where we can and not necessarily do things the same way. As I mentioned, we're also using technology to reduce some of our operating costs, and that gives us a little bit of headroom also to absorb some inflation. But we're really trying to use our heads here to come up with a way to kind of mitigate some of these challenges that we have. But it's a great question, and I'm sure it's one that you could ask every single company in your coverage universe.
So that is the quote getting a lot of coverage, and the thing that is, of course, the negative aspect, which I think is negative, is just how she's saying, there's different ways we can handle this as far as we can cut portions, make those smaller, and that's probably good for some people's waistline. Now, I don't think she was intentionally trying to be a jerk or anything like that. I think it was one of those off-the-cuff comments that did not come across as probably she would desire it to come across. But it's one of those things where we've already seen portion sizes going down at the parks. I talked about that in one of my last videos about portion sizes getting smaller. So the question is, are they going to keep getting smaller and smaller? And the price, we're not increasing it, but yeah, you're getting less and less. So really, per ounce, you are charging more and more. I think it's smart to be looking at the suppliers, looking at different things they can substitute. But once again, hearing that portion sizes and different things like that are going to continue to come down, that's a concern that I think guests have. So that was kind of the negative thing that I picked out from the investor call when I was listening to it. There was plenty of things where I was rolling in my eyes at certain things where, everyone's loving the Magic Key. Disney Genie's done all these great things. Well, I'm sure there's plenty of that too, but there's also been some negative things about people not being able to get those reservations for the Magic Key, and also some concerns with how Disney Genie was running. But the one thing that the same CFO that she called out about 2022 spending that I thought was really interesting was this. So I'm going to play this comment and then we'll talk about it.
Our capital expenditures in fiscal 2021 were $3.6 billion, or approximately $400 million lower than our fiscal 2020 CapEx of $4 billion. CapEx for the year came in lower than the previous guidance we gave, primarily due to spending delays across the enterprise. For fiscal 22, we expect CapEx to increase by $2.5 billion versus 2021, driven by the delivery of the Disney Wish, as well as other increased spending at DPEP and corporate. At DPEP, we expect that per cap spending at our domestic parks in fiscal 2022 will continue to significantly exceed pre-pandemic levels, and we are particularly encouraged by the early response we are seeing to Genie at Walt Disney World. However, we also expect that while we continue to pursue strong cost mitigation efforts, certain costs will be elevated in fiscal 22 versus pre-pandemic levels, including, for example, inflationary pressure on wages, costs related to new projects and initiatives such as Star Wars, Galaxy's Edge, Avengers Campus, and the Epcot expansion, and a ramp-up of expenses in support of our cruise ship expansion.
So there she calls out that the 2022 spending is likely going to be going up because they're going to be spending more on the parks, including things that are planned for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, Avengers Campus, and the Epcot expansion. And what I think is really interesting about these is we know they had cut back and slowed down on a lot of those projects. And so we know kind of some of the things coming to Epcot, although we had been under the impression some of it had also been canceled. But it's great news that Avengers Campus, it sounds like that e-ticket is coming, that more spending is coming on that, because otherwise the land is done other than that e-ticket. So that is great news there. But the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, what spending is that? We haven't heard of any new attractions or restaurants announced for that. We know that there was an attraction they put off and a restaurant that they put off initially for that, but are those coming? Could have she been talking about the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser? I don't think that's what she meant in this case, because they've already been spending money on that and they were already calling it by name, how it's been selling out for some of the opening cruises for that. So what do you think she is talking about when she's talking about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge? And do you think Avengers Campus she is talking about that e-ticket? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. That's exciting news if we're going to see those more construction and more attractions start coming out. At least that funding going in 2022. But lots of good news today. Some not so good news with the flood and with the portion sizes and different cost-cutting measures like that. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please give a like. And as I said before, consider subscribing to the channel because my hope is always to make your next Disney adventure a little bit more magical. And we'll have lots more news and updates very soon. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see y'all again real soon. Bye.